Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It was the month of Jumada al-Ula in the 4th year after Hijrah. Banu Nadir had been exiled roughly 2 months earlier, and the amount of plots of the kuffar against the Muslims had somewhat lessened, but it was rather short-lived. A rider came to Medina from the direction of Najd, and he commented to the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum that he sees the Muslims are rather relaxed, while the tribes of Banu Ghatafan, Banu Tha'laba and Banu Muharib were busy preparing an army, surely to attack the Muslims. The Sahaba radiyallahu anhum told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of this, and immediately the Muslim army was readied. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left either Hadrat Abu Dharr al-Ghifari or Hadrat Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhuma in charge of Medina, and headed out to face these kuffar with 400 to 800 Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. The historians differ on the exact amount. The Muslims headed out to a place known as Nakhla in Najd to confront the kuffar. It was a long and difficult journey, and the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum had only a few mounts with them, so they took turns riding. And as they walked, the khuffain, those leather socks that they were wearing, it wore through, and the skin of their feet was scraped off, and so it began bleeding. So the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum tore pieces of cloth and leather, which they then tied around their feet in order to continue marching on. And it is from these pieces of cloth, Riqaa, that this battle came to be known as Zhaat Ar-Riqaa. That they had no sandals, and that they had to walk on sharp stones and hot sand in the heat that resulted in their feet being injured like this, did not dissuade the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum in the least from marching out in jihad fi sabilillah. Today, a man will step on a small thorn and then want to sit and perform salah because it's too painful to stand. But this is what separated the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum from people of today. The Sahaba radiyallahu anhum didn't think twice about sacrificing life and limb for the sake of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A number of important events and some miracles as well took place during this battle. It was in this battle that the law of Salatul Khawf came into effect, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed the salah in this manner with the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. It was in this battle that Hadrat Jabir radiyallahu anhu's camel, which was the slowest of all the camels that the Muslims had, was prodded by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then it became faster than all of the other camels. During this battle, an incident occurred that is very similar to the one that took place in a previous battle, the Battle of Ghatafan. A man by the name of Ghawrath spoke up amongst his people and said, Should I not kill Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for you? They replied, definitely, but how will you do it? He said, I will assassinate Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Ghawrath came while Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting under a tree, with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's sword on his lap. So Ghawrath asked, could I see the sword of yours? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said yes. So Ghawrath took the sword, unsheathed it and began swinging it around. And then he tried to put his plan into action. So he turned to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked, are you not afraid of me, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, no, and why should I be afraid of you? He replied, should you not fear me while I have a sword in my hands? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, because Allah will protect me from you and prevent you from harming me. So Ghawrath, without thinking, he handed the sword back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and left, unsuccessful in his assassination attempt because Allah had prevented him by means that he himself had no idea or understanding of. Another miraculous incident which took place during this battle was that when the Muslims had set up camp, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose 2 Sahaba radiyallahu anhum to guard the Muslims. One Sahabi from the Muhajirin and one from the Ansar. The Muhajir was Hadrat Ammar ibn Yasir, and the Ansari was Hadrat Abbad ibn Bishr radiyallahu anhuma. So the 2 Sahaba radiyallahu anhum decided to take turns guarding. One would guard the first portion of the night and the other the latter part of the night. Hadrat Abbad radiyallahu anhu took the first part and Hadrat Ammar the second. So Hadrat Ammar went to sleep and Hadrat Abbad started performing salah. And along came one of the kuffar, and he saw the silhouette of Hadrat Abbad radiyallahu anhu performing salah, and he knew that he was the Muslims' lookout. So he drew his bow and fired an arrow. The arrow struck Hazrat Abbad radiallahu anhu, but without a sound, he pulled out and dropped the arrow and continued standing in salah. The kafir was confused, so he shot a second arrow. This too hit Hazrat Abbad. Again he pulled it out and continued with his salah. After he was shot for a third time, Hazrat Abbad radiallahu anhu went into ruku' and then sajda and completed his salah. He then woke up Hazrat Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu and told him that he had been injured. When Hazrat Ammar radiallahu anhu saw the blood, he jumped up, and then the kafir saw a second person, and he knew that the Muslims were aware of him and that the alarm would be soon sounded, so he ran away. Hazrat Ammar radiallahu anhu, he turned to Hazrat Abbad radiallahu anhu and asked him, "Why didn't you wake me up when you were shot the first time?" Hazrat Abbad radiallahu anhu, he replied saying that I was busy reciting a surah in my salah and I didn't want to cut short my salah without completing it. But when he continued firing arrows, then I was afraid that I may fall short in my duty of guarding the front line of the Muslims in case I pass out or die, and then I didn't inform you. And that is why I completed my salah. Otherwise, I would rather have let my life end before ending my salah. This is not fiction or some fanciful fairy tale. This is the strength of Iman that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum had, that being shot with an arrow, nay, 3 arrows, was not enough to turn them away from worshipping Allah. That's the love that they had for the Quran, for Salah, and for the Deen. The Muslims and the Kuffar camped apart from each other like this, but the Kuffar didn't step forward to begin the battle. And the Muslims remained in Ribat like this for a few days. And then the Mushrikeen lost their nerve and decided against attacking the Muslims. So they packed up their camp and went home. And so the Muslims returned home to Medina, victorious once more without a battle having been fought. And in this manner, the battle of Zhaat Ar-Riqaa came to an end. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.